late night edition of Euripides. This time we're going to do the Children of Heracles. This was an interesting, short and sweet, kind of more action oriented play. It starts off with Iolaus, who is the former shield bearer of Heracles, also known as Hercules. I'm going to call him Heracles, though, because that's how he's written in the book. He is old now. Hercules has since died. He died some kind of horrible death where his wife accidentally gave him a poison cape, and it was so painful that he had to burn himself alive. That's not in the play. That's just side lore, but weird. Heracles has a bunch of children that are all fleeing from the Heracles' cousin and former rival slash arch nemesis Eurystheus. I think that's how you say it. Eurystheus, who is the king of Argos. And Eurystheus is the guy who sent Hercules on all of his crazy labors to kill a bunch of crazy monsters and all this other business, and was generally kind of trying to get Hercules killed the whole time. So now that Hercules is dead, Heracles is dead, Eurystheus is trying to kill his children because he doesn't want them to grow to seek revenge. And he's chased them all the way over to Athens territory, and that's where we find Iolaus and the children. They are seeking asylum at a temple of Zeus at Marathon. And at this point, the herald of Eurystheus shows up, and he's being a creepy child snatcher guy. He's just generally a bad dude, coming up trying to steal the children. He wants to kill the kids. That's his job, but he's pretty villainous in doing so. And he's just kind of nasty, and he argues with Iolaus about it. They point out, hey, you're not supposed to steal people from a temple. That's an offense to the gods. But Eurystheus doesn't really care. Luckily, though, a chorus of old Athenian men show up, and they start pointing out the same thing. You cannot steal people away from a temple. That's not okay. And eventually, Eurystheus says, well, I need to talk to the king of Athens then to get the authority to do this anyway. And Demophon, the king, shows up. And he asks, what's going on? They kind of do a back and forth, little mini trial. Eurystheus makes his case of why he should be able to get the children of Heracles, and pretty much just threatens Demophon and the Athenians that if they don't, that there is an army of Argives ready to kill them all. So that was his point. And then Iolaus gets an opportunity to talk about why he thinks that they should be given sanctuary by the Athenians. And he points out a few different things. He makes some good cases. He points out how Heracles is related ultimately to Demophon, and that also him and Heracles had done a favor for Theseus, Demophon's father. And Demophon weighs the options, and he says, all right, there's 3 reasons. Firstly, this is in honor of Zeus. This is his altar. You can't steal people out of the temple. It's not okay. Second, the blood debt. Heracles helped out Theseus, my dad. So, yeah, I'm going to help out his children. And then thirdly, Athens is a free state. Argives are not the boss of us. You can't come bringing your army up here and telling us what to do. Not cool. And the herald tries to grab a kid and run away, and Demophon says, I'm going to whack you with a stick. And all the old men are like, don't do it. Apparently you're not supposed to injure a herald. That's not a good thing to do. But Demophon says, I'm gonna hit him with a stick if he tries to snatch any children. So the herald runs away, and he goes and tells his story to his king, and it's war. It's on now. So Demophon leaves to prepare for war, and a little while later he comes back and he's looking pretty sad. And Iolaus is like, what's wrong, man? What's going on? Demophon tells him, the oracles have told us that we need to sacrifice a virgin, of course. Has to be of noble blood. And I'm not going to have any of my daughters sacrificed. And I can't ask any Athenian citizens sacrifice their daughters. He also points out that he's not like an Eastern king. He has to rule his people with a certain degree of respect to gain respect of his people. Which I thought was an interesting comment there. Then one of Heracles' daughters comes up and offers herself to be the sacrifice. She's not named in the play. She's only written as the maiden. However, on Google lore, her name is Macaria. So, for what it's worth. She makes the point that if she doesn't sacrifice herself, that basically everyone's going to die anyway if they lose the battle. But more so than that, she wants to put up her life because the men of Athens are putting up their lives to protect her and her siblings. It's only fair that she should put up her life to protect them and offer them victory in battle. And she exhibits her father's heroic spirit, and it really messes up Iolaus. He's torn up about it, but he allows her to go, and she leaves to be sacrificed for victory in battle. And Iolaus is laying on the ground, just miserable, when a servant arrives. It's Hylas' servant, who is Hercules' firstborn son. Or I don't know if he's his firstborn, but he's his eldest son, at least. And so Hylas comes and tells him Hylas' servant comes and tells them that they're getting ready to fight, and Iolaus wants to come with. He says, I'm not going to sit around and wait either. I think he was really inspired by Macaria and what she did to sacrifice herself, so he wants to go into battle. And the servant points out, like, you are a weak old man. You don't have the strength you used to have. You're gonna be basically useless out there, and you're probably gonna get killed. And Iolaus says, I'm not gonna sit around and do nothing. Grab that armor out of the temple, young man, and I'm gonna need you to carry that for me. And they start walking, and the servant is worried he's gonna miss the battle. He's like, oh my gosh, I need to be by my master's side when the battle starts, but I gotta take this old man, and they're walking real slow, so he's giving the old man guff. And in a comic scene, they kind of wander off stage. And they leave us with Alcmene, grandma to the Hercules babies. She is hanging out, worried about the outcome, when another servant arrives. So time is just moving really fast here. Like the battles, they just happen off stage pretty much immediately. And the servant comes and tells her what happened. Yeah, we won the battle. So it all started where Hylas challenged Eurystheus to one-on-one combat to avoid the battle altogether. He says, fight me, and if you defeat me, you can have all the Hercules babies. And otherwise, if I defeat you, you gotta get out of here, and no one else needs to shed blood for this. Eurystheus refuses the challenge, and so the battle rages. At first, the Argives have a little bit of an upper hand. Then they start getting pushed back. The battle's raging. Then, in the midst of it, Iolaus, the old man, he prays for strength of his youth. And some kind of magical cloud thing surrounds him. It mentions that people who know of this say that it was Hercules. So, whatever that means. And then once Iolaus emerges from the cloud, he's all youthful and like jacked and muscular. And then he hops up in the chariot with Hylas and they chase down Eurystheus. And then they eventually capture him. And the grandma says, well, great, did they kill him? And the servant says, no, they're sending him back for you to see what to do with him. And so they bring out Eurystheus to grandma. And she's like, let's execute him right now. And then the Athenians are like, hey, that's actually illegal here. We don't execute prisoners of war like that, though. And she's kind of confounded by it. And like, well, I'm just going to kill him anyways then. And you guys can figure out what to do about that. And they're like, please don't. And then she asks, what if there's some kind of loophole? And then Eurystheus actually himself provides the loophole. He says, well, I am not afraid to die. But that being said, like, if I die, I will provide a gift of a oracle of Apollo to the city of Athens. And if you bury my body here, I will protect your people in the future and curse the children of Heracles. And I will also protect the Athenians against the children of Heracles when they eventually turn on the city someday in the future. And the servants think, well, I guess that's okay, that's cool. And then grandma says, well, you heard him, go ahead and kill him and make sure to throw his body to the dogs. And then they carry him off. And that's the end. So, goofy story. I suppose the tragedy of this is that the daughter of Heracles had to sacrifice herself. But it's very much in the line of Euripides, where one individual is sacrificing themselves for the good of others, like in Alcestis. I think that's her name. Yeah, so that's just something. There's also a really cool passage in here that I wanted to bring out too, which was after Heracles' daughter is going to sacrifice herself. The chorus lets out this really interesting line here, which says, no man, I say, enjoys happiness or endures sorrow in this life, except by heaven's will. Nor does the same house always stand firm in fortune's favor, but different fates attend it, one after the other. One man is dashed from high to low estate, another without honor, fate makes prosperous. What is ordained no man may escape, no subtlety of thought will enable him to keep it at bay. Whoever strives to do this will spend his days in idle and unending toil. There you go. And that's kind of what the chorus said to Iolaus when he's lying on the ground, sorrowing over the girl who sacrificed herself. I don't really know what else to think about it. I thought that was kind of interesting that it's a comment on fate, and I've heard fortune described in that, the concept of fortune described in that way as well. So where it's just commenting how it doesn't really matter, it doesn't necessarily make sense. Fortune is not distributed according to the merit of people, but it's seemingly random or sometimes unjust. And not to let it destroy you, basically. Don't let it get you down, Iolaus. So maybe that's the lesson, maybe that's the moral of the story. It's what I like to take away from it. Anyways, that's all I have for today.